Good afternoon. My name is Jacques Essinger. I'm the CEO of Polaris Medical, and we're about to launch our Series C financing, a 20 million financing round to accelerate our clinical development. Polaris has been born out of a success story. In fact, it's a spin-off of Symetis. Symetis was a Swiss TAVR company, which was acquired by Boston Scientific in 2017. I was the CEO of Symetis. And upon the closing of the transaction with Boston Scientific, we spun off a mitral assets that we had previously acquired. And this is why headquarters based in Switzerland, where I'm currently living, and our bulk of our operation based in Palo Alto, where I'm here on a very regular basis, headed by Alex Karkahan, a serial entrepreneur with a very serious, successful track record. Altogether, we are 14 people. Mentioned, we are in the mitral space. The need is substantial. According to Medtech strategists, it's the greatest unmet need in structural heart disease, expected to be reaching progressively the TAVR-sized market. Market is currently dominated by edge-to-edge repair, like the mitral clip of Abbott, the Pascal from Edwards. However, these edge-to-edge can only treat correctly 70%, and they leave a 30% of so-called complex patients. This would have normally been the field for total mitral valve replacement. However, the so-called TMVR do have a pretty big challenge with a very high exclusion rate due to anatomical constraint. And this is that gap that we're filling with what we call the hemivalve. The hemivalve, as the name says, it's a half valve. So we are basically replacing just the posterior leaflet. I'm pleased to introduce the first active posterior leaflet replacement. This approach will be able to treat most of these so-called complex patients without having the limitation of the TMVR. In addition, unique feature, it's really a fast and easy procedure. Our last case was less than 40 minutes, catheter in, catheter out, fully retrievable after testing, absolutely unique in the field of mitral, predictable outcome, unlike the edge-to-edge, and finally, preserve the options for future treatments such as TMVR. We have been pioneering the field of hemivalve. We had our first in man with the first generation in 2019. It was a passive device, built 18 patient clinical experience, established the concept, established the safety, had some efficacy, but with some limitation. And that led us, after a number of iterations, to bring our second generation, which is an active design with a membrane out of pericardium that effectively mimic what the posterior leaflet is doing. 8 patients to date and counting, and truly impressive results that I'll share with you. So our system comes in different sizes, 3 anterior posterior sizes, 2 medial lateral sizes. The delivery catheter, 24 French, similar size as the mitral clip system, coming with 5 anchors, 1 primary, 4 secondaries for anchoring. And on this short video, I'll highlight, it's in the lab, beating heart model, how we deliver. The most important and the only point is for the physician to place the primary anchor. From there, it's all preset. Tether to bring down the guide rails. When the guide rails are down, we bring the driver with the anchor. We engage the secondary anchors one by one. And when they are all pre-engaged, and that's the beauty of the system, we can then check the regurgitation. We can check the gradient. If it's good, we continue. If it's not good, we remove with no consequence for the patient. So if it's a green light, we go. We then further engage the secondary anchors one by one, and then retrieve the driver, and then we end up with a brand new coaptation surface for the anterior leaflet. Mentioned before, first generation, clinical experience of 18 cases. It was really a learning. We have been pioneering this field. Nobody has done it before, and what we have learned, nobody could tell us about it before. So we have learned a lot of things, had quite some good results with the smaller devices, and we moved to the larger one. We've been hitting a wall. And we had several cases to retrieve the device with no adverse event, further confirming the safety of the procedure. What is the problem we had? What we call now the MR versus gradient paradigm. With a passive device, very challenging to be able to improve the gradient, improve the MR without creating a gradient. So what did we do? We took our initial design, added a membrane, which we call the ACE, which stands for Adaptive Coaptation Element. This is the device, you can see on black, the frame, in red, the ACE, in green, the anterior leaflet, and here you can see it in action. This is a recent case. In the red, you can see all that color going up. This is the MR, and this is the result after the case. MR has disappeared, and this was achieved with no change in the gradient. So very promising early results. The MR we're getting now in terms of results is comparable to what you would get with a mitral clip, and this comes without increase in the gradient. Our clinical strategy will be to focus initially on the complex patients, going to 24, 25, building up our 40-patient clinical experience to be ready for going then to the pilot study, which we expect to be about 100 patients in these complex, and it's still too early to speak about the RTC clinical pivotal trial. Competition, well, is growing as the AMI valve is gaining traction. There was a recent presentation by Scott Lim at the CRT meeting. He was supposed to ask to give an update on the overall field of AMI valve, and he came up with two main concepts. The Polaris one, and the other one is the one from the foundry called Half Moon with a partnership with Medtronic. So from a competition standpoint, we're a very good neighbor. What is great is that we have a very robust IP portfolio dated back to 2011, and we clearly have early priority dates that predate potential competitors that we are aware of. So with that, mentioned before, we're going to raise our Series C. We had two previous rounds, 18 and 40 million respectively, a very strong syndicate, Dusheng, Endeavor, Longitude, Wellington Partners, Early Bird, and IDEO. And that Series C, 20 million, should bring us at a very clear value inflection point, which is what we call US ID readiness. For that, 40 patients is our target, and having completed the full ID preclinical validation with a closing sometime in November. Thank you.